On this week's episode of Circlecraft Podcast, I'm joined by Stuart from Pagan Kydex, the man, the myth, the legend of the Kydex Whisperer, the Kydex Warper, the airbender of Kydex, of plastic, Okay, so we'll get into it just a moment. Prepare to hear about sidecar holsters, me vomiting at a Red Lobster, additionally licorice. I hate licorice. Lots of food. But yeah, so enjoy this episode. Jump in. Don't forget the podcast. Subscribe. Check out the Instagram. And carry on. Have a good week, my guys and dudes and gals and whatever you are. Helicopters. Sounds. Don't you hate that? It's like
yeah, normally we've got music and stuff kicking and some other things.
Cool, man. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and start. Let's go ahead and recording now. We'll just go ahead and start rolling with it. So, how are you doing, man? What's the word? How are you doing tonight?
Well, I'm doing really good, man. I appreciate you having me on and getting a chance to talk a little bit about Kydex from a bender's perspective. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And we had kind of chatted before about all the different topics and different, perspectives people don't really know about. But before we get started, man, episodes are just flying through. Today with me, I have my man Stuart with Pagan Kydex, and this is kind of a special week. We got a whole lot kind of brewing this week, man.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm not the largest bender out there and not the biggest page, but having the opportunity to do a collaboration with you is pretty cool. I love that it came from an idea of just like, hey, this is a really rad pattern. Hey, I think other people would really like it too. Yeah. Hey, I think we should. You know what I mean? I think that's really cool.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think. So it's kind of crazy because it was actually a while back. What was it? Was it December or was it November when we really kind of started chatting?
Yeah, it was November. I think you got pushed over my way, and I know I found your page through a mutual contact, and ended up making two holsters for you because we did the custom prints, and one of them was made off the CNC shells, and the other one was made 100% by hand. And after a little bit of tweaking, I think they came out really well. And that was something that was like work like that you created. I was like, oh, really like this. I do. And I mean, from my perspective, I see a ton of stuff. Kydex was solid colors for a very long time. You could have any holster you wanted. Back when I started this company in October of 14, good belief. 7 years ago, pretty much. You could have anything you wanted as long as it was black. And the versatility of sublimation has come so far. We went into fabric covered Kydex for a little while to get the right camo patterns, and now we can do full blown, like, crazy custom images. And like I said, your pattern was rad, and I want to check it out. And it's like, all right, this is gonna work. I really like this.
It worked out, and it was kind of, honestly, the hardest part was trying to decide on design. Was just trying to make, I knew I'd do the rooster with one of them, and the other one took me a moment, and I wanted it to be, I think, more silly than anything, because originally I wasn't planning on actually selling them. Like, I wasn't planning on offering it as something. I was just going to do something for me. Like, I was just going to do something like, I think originally I wanted like Funyuns Like I wanted Funyuns like all over, or like
we did talk about that, didn't we?
yeah. And then or like cheesesteaks or something like that. It was pretty much all my binge food. Is pretty much all I was going through. I was just going
That's good stuff,
dude, one at a time. I was like, dude, I was like, even if I have to go like buy like a bag of Funyuns and like do some professional photography of it, and then like crop mask the actual image, I'll do it, you know. And then same thing with cheesesteaks. It's okay. I get to eat it afterwards, you know.
I'm sure those companies would love to be represented in that particular field anyway, right?
Oh, yeah. I don't even know where Sonic is like based. Where is Sonic even based out of? I
don't have a clue, man.
I kind of thought it was like a Southeast company, and then like my buddy was like, yeah, you know, I haven't been there in a while, and he's like in Washington, like the state of Washington. I'm like, oh shit, never mind. It's not.
We thought it was special to us over here on the East Coast, didn't we?
Yeah. But so as we get through the podcast, we're gonna kind of go through. We're gonna do like some generic just conversation and stuff like that. I think like in small business sense, and of course we'll be focusing on Kydex as well. Discuss some of like the build up, the collaborations, and like the offerings we're going to have for this Friday. That'll be the 26th of February. And so we'll kind of talk about some of those parts. But as always, I have my 3 questions. And honestly, I've been thinking about this all day, kind of going through. And there's one question here I'm really excited to ask. It's the first time question, to be fair, but I'm pretty excited. So one question, I'll get started. We were just talking about fast food. So, in your opinion, sir, what is the worst fast food?
Ooh, hang on. I'm getting a lot of feedback.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, you're breaking through a little bit.
See, I'm not hearing the sticks, man. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
All right.
Breaking up a tad.
Let's
see, marker 5 minute 20.
No.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit for me. 1 second. Make a note to see here. There we go. I'll just edit out that one part and we'll just continue on. But anyways, yeah.
All right.
Little technical difficulties, but yeah, man. I'm not sure. It may have broken up when I was saying it, but one question I always like asking people is what is your worst or your least favorite fast food? You'd say.
Least favorite fast food is super easy. Do you remember Captain D's?
Yeah, of course I know Captain D's.
So
Dude,
look, I've never eaten there.
What?
I've never eaten there, and that's because I had grandparents who liked it from time to time.
Yeah,
and they would pick it up and they would drive it back in their car and they would eat it in the house, and it smelled so stinking bad. I just remember from my childhood, like, I think that scarred me for life. And I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina. So, like, seafood's a thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's a big thing down there in food town. And, no, that was the beginning. So it was one of my earliest bad food memories was Captain Frickin' D's. Can't hang with it. Can't do it. Don't want to be a part of it. None of it.
Dude, I'm going to tell you something right now. There's one food from Captain D's that I'll get. And I'll be honest, I haven't had Captain D's in years.
Good for you.
I can't remember the last time I had it, but I don't know who got me on it, but man, they have like fried clams. And you're probably thinking,
no.
Dude,
I'm just telling you anymore. I gotta go.
Dude, fried clams, fried clams. I will remember that. They were always pretty good. I have to say though, like, seafood aside, I always thought their fries were pretty good, to be fair. I always thought their fries.
Never gave them a shot. Never gave them a shot, and I don't mind.
So, funny story. Okay, so it wasn't a Captain D's, it was actually a Red Lobster, but I kind of grouped them together. Like, Red Lobster is like the fine dining of Captain D's, is what I would.
It's like the Applebee's of Captain D's,
exactly.
For sure, yeah.
So, funny enough, same circumstances with Captain D's for you as Red Lobster for me. So I think I was like 4 or 5 years old, and I had a babysitter at the time, and I remember this vividly. It's kind of one of those crazy. I may have been younger than that, but more or less, stopped at the gas station, and I got Hawaiian Punch, or she bought me Hawaiian Punch. I don't know what the process was, but I drank like all of it, or like at least half of it. And about halfway back to our house, I'm like extremely nauseous. I don't feel well. So we stop at a Red Lobster and go to the bathroom, and I vomit all red fruit punch inside Red Lobster.
Looks like a freaking crime scene,
dude.
I'm
Yes,
sure.
man. Yes. And so from this day, I still do not like the flavor of fruit punch. Same thing with Captain D's. I don't go to Captain D's really. I don't know. It's just like I just don't go. But I do like their biscuits though. I'll mess around with their biscuits, but
Yep. Red Lobster cheddar biscuits are the jam, right? Or at least I used to think so. But like I said, kind of a food snob anymore. It's terrible.
Yeah. I'm about to say again, I can't tell you the last time I actually went there or even had anything from there. Same thing with Captain D's, but yeah, good memories, man. I think maybe my standards went up. It's kind of like one of those other foods. Like you're like, oh man, they were so good. Let's go back and get it. And then like when you go back and get it, you're like, man, this is disgusting. Like something changed. Something changed for sure. Oh man. Okay, so 2 more questions. I'll stick on the gross train. Savory stuff. I'm gonna switch to sweet stuff. What is the nastiest candy in your opinion? Like what is the grossest candy? Doesn't matter. Any kind of form of chocolate candy.
It's breaking up, man. Sorry.
There you go. Can you hear me now? There we go. Oh yeah, no, it's all good, man. All good. All right, we're back. And so I'm not sure where I cut off.
Something about candies. It was either the best one or the worst one.
So we'll do both, man. We'll do both. So I was gonna keep on with the worst fast food. I was gonna say the worst sweet food. So what's your least favorite candy?
Oh, least favorite candy. That's a tough one, man. I don't mind candy at all.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot, but I always steal my kids. So least favorite are probably going to be like lemon heads. What? Like they're good, but I'm just not a lemon guy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got you. I was gonna say like licorice or something. I don't know something about licorice.
Oh, see, I'm one of those weirdos though. Like I also like pineapple on my pizza, so like black licorice doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I'm with you, dude. If you are so restrictive and you're so close-minded that you feel like only a certain amount of ingredients go on a pizza, then that's just a sad thing for you, man. Like that's just sad. You should really enjoy all the various ingredients. There's nothing wrong with a good Hawaiian,
that's your
Hawaiian
loss,
pizza,
right?
Yeah, like a little bit of ham, a little bit of pineapple, a little spice to it. Solid. Very solid. All right. So I'll go ahead and move on to the last one, just so while we're cleaning, treading ahead. So on the line of food, I'm just obviously on a big hunger fest right now because I'm just talking about nothing but food in these questions now. I just realized it. All right, man, this is you. This is it.
These are the things people want to know about.
Yeah, exactly. This is what matters most. These are all the 3 random questions. So you, sir, have been appointed as the lead head chef for a famous night. And the big guest of the night is Gordon Ramsay. What do you cook for Gordon Ramsay?
Gordon Ramsay's going to get a surf and turf. He's going to get steak. He's going to get lobster. I know it's kind of played out, but I know I can do a good job. And maybe some shrimp and grits on the side. There you
go. Nice. All right, so that concludes the 3 questions, the 3 questionnaire. So we'll do that. So we'll go ahead and move on. I always like doing the 3 questions more or less, just random, just generic chit chat and stuff like that. That was a lot better answer. If it was me, I would have said something like, I don't know, like some like hot dog tacos or something like that, just to make him just fucking lose his mind or something. Or like an American cheese sandwich with like Doritos in the middle or something, like just something just gnarly, just to make him
Gordon,
cringe.
How do you feel about bologna and mayo sandwiches?
I'll give you my famous macaroni and hot dogs recipe. Don't tell anyone though. All I add is salt and pepper. All right.
We heat it in the microwave. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's the right heat 2 minutes flat. Don't let it sit out for anything longer than 10 seconds, though. So you're with Pagan Kydex. Well, you are Pagan Kydex. As for me,
I am. Pagan Ridge is
Pagan Ridge.
One man.
Yep. And so,
no, you're good.
Same thing. I think when I was trying to figure out someone to basically source a holster from, like a little custom holster just to ride around, because some stuff is just kind of like it gets kind of old having the generic usual stuff everyone's kind of rocking, whether it just be your standard black Kydex or like your tactical Kydex or just something that's just kind of just a little too serious. And I think I was just asking around for someone who could do a custom Kydex, and I had a lot of crazy responses, and that's a thing within itself. But I was just like, no, I want like something like a custom design. I'm not looking for anything like some new space holster. I just want like a custom print. And so your name popped up, and sure enough, contacted you, and man, you just were crazy easy to work with, move forward, and then like you pitched the idea like, oh man, these would really do well. Like we could definitely probably sell these. Have you thought about that? And I was like, damn, I didn't think about it, but yeah, let's chit chat. Let's see how it is. Do a little testing, see how it is, a little hype up. And here we are, man. We're the week of, and it's been a couple months and kind of just getting it, forward and trying it out. And then of course, freeing our schedules up, so we were both kind of able to really focus on it. But here we are, man. So Pagan Ridge Kydex, how'd you get started with Pagan Ridge Kydex? Like, when did you start doing this? What was the need or the desire that you found?
Well, back in 2014, I had when I moved up here from Charleston, South Carolina. I'd been in the police department for a little while over in Norfolk, which was a whole education in and among itself. And it really kind of jump-started my views on, personal defense and responsibility and stuff like that. I've been a car guy through and through my entire life. I've always worked in and around automotive. And so guns, funny enough, are one of those things that I found a lot of car guys get into. They can be loud. You can break them, you can fix them, you can modify them. So they kind of went hand in hand, right? But it came about when me and a couple of my buddies were out at a shoot, and I think we were over in Chesterfield or something like that. And I saw this guy walking around with this battle belt. And like I said, this is 2014, right? Instagram had just started. Not too long before that, like, it wasn't a lot of stuff going on that platform. And he had a really cool, like, black carbon fiber with red backing and red eyelets holsters, and they were plastic. And he had his mag carriers, stuff like that. I was like, what the fuck is this, man? This is cool. And he was like, well, this is Kydex. And we started talking, and I was like, well, I'm running a Safariland and on a basically one of my duty belts. Sure. And he was like, yeah, got this from, so-and-so out here in Richmond and blah, blah, blah. And I started looking around, and I was like, $90 for a Kydex holster? It's a piece of plastic. Why is it $90? That's insane. There's no way I'd pay $90 for two pieces of plastic that somebody heated up. That's ridiculous. Let's see if we can heat up plastic and make a holster for less than $90. So, and I have no idea what that dude paid for or any of that stuff, but it was cool because what it did was it sent me and a buddy of mine down a rabbit hole. And, we were both, automotive technicians. We both work on cars. We both consider ourselves pretty handy. So we were like, well, forget it. We're going to make our own. Let's figure this out. And enter good old YouTube. And Andrew with Filster really got stuff hooked up with us. And it was really cool because they put out a lot of videos, but it was really grassroots back then. Those guys working in their living rooms and whatever, heating Kydex up with toaster ovens. And we just literally, me and him just started, and we just went from there, and it just went deeper and deeper and deeper. Before this podcast, I went back through my profile and cringed at some of the early stuff that I thought was good. And it's just like, you look back now and you're like, oh God, that's terrible. But that was what the norm was back then. And all we tried to do was progress. And I've been running this myself since about 2018. And again, it's just a matter of like, okay, well, how do you build a better holster, right? And there's lots of companies doing it now. It's kind of blown up, and you know, you mentioned Kydex 5-6 years ago. I don't know if everybody would understand what you were talking about, and now it's one of those words that's pretty much synonymous with guns and competition and carry and conceal, both, you know, covert and overt. And really, it just came from, I want to make this myself. Okay, let's make this ourselves. Hey, that came out cool. And you show it to your buddies, and they're like, hey, can you make me one? Yeah, no problem at all. And then when those requests got to the point and started thinking around going, hey, this is actually a viable part-time gig. And here I am 7 years later trying to still do the same thing, right? Help people out, get holsters that maybe they can't readily get, or get patterns that sometimes would have been difficult in the past. Through partnerships and stuff like that, make it to where it's a lot easier to get a custom holster now than it ever was before, and that's kind of where we're sitting.
Yeah, it still seems like, I say people do know about Kydex, and you're definitely right. I think it was about that time frame, maybe a little bit before then, because I feel like I remember I had a buddy who was like, "Oh yeah, I'm talking about doing a Kydex, and you know, I'm trying to do it." And he's like, "Hey, can I borrow one of your Glocks?" And I was like, no, I'm not going to have my Glock be the dummy Glock for you and your shenanigans. And that's how I thought. I was like, well, I'll give you a free holster out of it. And I was like, I'm good, man. I'm good, you know. But I do know, I think that's kind of, I think you're right though, about five or so years ago, it really kind of started catching up, at least in my area in Southeast. And that's kind of where you were too, I guess. But
yeah. So I'm located up here in the massive town of Smithfield, Virginia, and gotcha. It's basically a Tidewater region, right? Southeast Virginia. So it's one of those things where, like, what I've noticed now is a lot of people are like, well, it's a plastic holster, just, you know, make it for me. And that's one of the things that I thought when I got into this, was like, well, it's just two pieces of plastic, heat them up together and press them over a gun and you're done, right? Piece of cake. And come to find out, that is absolutely not as easy as it sounds. So sure. While you can do that, and I've seen them, you know, I've seen the guys at the gun shows where they have pre-cut pieces that are already, you know, riveted together, and they take a heat gun to, you know, whatever two pieces of Kydex they have, and slap your gun in there, and they mold it up by hand or press it in a foam, you know, hand press, and then voila, you've got a Kydex holster. But it's one of those things that it's just like anything else, right? There's lots of different cars on the market. Some are good, some are trash, but they all kind of do the same thing. And I'm going to go ahead and compare Kydex to that kind of thing, right? You can get premium, high-end stuff, or you can get basic, just get me back and forth to where I need to go. And those work better or worse depending on what you've got into it. And that's one of the biggest things I think a lot of people miss about a Kydex holster. You know, I get a lot of DMs and a lot of emails on, hey, can you make this for this, or can you make this for that? And as you and all your listeners are very well aware, there are a million different pistols, and then there are thousands of different attachments you can put on those pistols, and to have the perfect blue gun or mold or CNC cut shell for each gun with each variation of laser or laser light combo. You know, you got the grip lights, you've got the ones that mount on the pick rails. Yep. You've got integrated lights and lasers. It just, the variables go crazy. So the balance in finding a good Kydex holster is, okay, number one, do they offer what I'm running? And then number two, you know, if the main big companies, you know, Alienware, Safariland, those guys, if they don't offer what I'm looking for, what do I do? And that's where smaller Kydex guys like myself can really come into play, because, you know, if you're local, and you can check out my page, I've got some really ridiculous things that I've made. So finding a good Kydex bender who can work with you on your particular setup is absolutely key. The main issue is time and cost. You know, like I said, a lot of people oversimplify it and say, oh, well, it's just a piece of plastic you heat up and mold around a gun. It can't be that hard. And that was my opinion when I got into this.
Sure, yeah.
And we can talk all day about the importance of blocking and making sure you don't have any snag points, and making sure retention is proper around the trigger guard, but not around the trigger, right? Make sure it runs on the slide, but it doesn't grip the slide, so you don't rip off that really nice Cerakote finish that you paid so much money for. Make sure your retention is on the light when you run a light bearing holster, because you can't put it on the trigger guard, obviously. But make sure the light stays on the gun when you draw it, right? Adjustable retention is a big, big feature. And, that takes planning, and planning takes time and prep work. And so when people look at it and go, well, I can buy a, $40 holster off of Amazon, do knock yourself out, right? There's a time and a place for everything in the market, for sure. Otherwise it wouldn't be there. Mm-hmm. And, I'll never knock another Kydex guy or Kydex gal for selling stuff that's less expensive. That being said, the average Joe who just buys the Kydex holster, because they are so prevalent nowadays in the marketplace, I don't think really understand the time and the planning that comes into it. I mean, I have bins of wood wedges, plastic wedges. I've got metal outlines. I've got molds for lights. I've got whole bins full of blue guns, and I still will cut pieces of like polyboard, or cut wedges out of wood and make it to where I can space my stuff out appropriately. So whatever holster you've got, in theory, your light or your gun will slide in and out reliably every single time. You don't have to worry about putting a hole in yourself, because at the end of the day, I look at Kydex holsters a lot, and I'm going back to the automotive. I look at them like brakes, right? You can get cheap brakes, and you can get good brakes. But do you really want to be cheap on the brakes? Your holster's carrying your firearm. Your firearm, while we all like to, go out to the range and carry our stuff to be cool, we do have a big amount of personal responsibility when we choose to carry a firearm in public. And I think if you can find a holster that does what you need it to do for your particular firearm reliably, I think that's worth its weight in gold, personally. And that's the kind of products I try to deliver.
Yeah, I mean, and it's kind of funny because I think everyone's going to have their own brand or something else they like to go to, but I think, like you said, like the Amazon special stuff, and I know exactly what you're talking about, because I think I had one. I probably have one somewhere where I just, something quick to have and order, but at the end of the day, it was just cheap, and lack of some of the fitment and stuff like that, just kind of like you were saying. But I will say, kind of like, I guess when you're getting a little more personal touch, like a more personable thing, it just seems like you're getting your bang for your buck. And like you said, there's different little intricacies for each thing you order. And yeah, man, you're 100% right. And sometimes I think too much customization can be bad too for holsters too. You let someone tinker too much with something that they don't really, have too much experience with. And then of course, like you said, the range safety, and then being able to actually manipulate and pull the firearm. And then at the same time, also having good retention, so it's nothing falling out and being a goofball anywhere you are, whether you're concealed carrying somewhere or if you're on the range, like you were saying. But yeah, it's definitely something. I think Kydex is really, the advancement of it has come a long way compared to what I remember seeing. I think Alien Holsters was like the first one I had. I remember you saying that, and I was like, damn, I kind of forgot about Alien Holsters.
Yeah, and the big companies like that have been around for a long time, for a reason, right? They have brought it that people want to buy, and one of the things that I intentionally set out to do, from day one, is when I was in the police department, we had issued Safariland holsters, and Safariland has won hundreds and hundreds of government contracts, and they have put their product through their paces. And a lot of times when guys ask me, they're like, hey, I got a Glock 19 or Glock 17, I got an X300, it's got a red dot, and I want a hood and active retention. I'm like, cool, you need a 6094 Safariland. Have a great day. And they're like, wait, don't you want to make it? I'm like, I'm not going to be able to improve on a design like that. That being said, where my product comes in is okay, well, I don't necessarily need a $200 multicam holster for this, or already have one. I want something different. And that's really where I think your independent Kydex guys can really shine, is, our ability to get custom printed, or sublimated is the proper term, Kydex with a variety of patterns. I mean, and you can check some stuff out on my page, but I know you've seen them elsewhere. You know, that we do the tactical lumberjack plaid. There's flames. I think I saw a Guy Fieri one day, and that was really rad. There's a couple of guys doing a ton of different like Star Wars themes, and then one of my close partners I work with and really respect is Jessica with Eclipse Holsters up in Williamsburg, and they're locals, and I work with her and her husband a lot on getting shells and basically being mutually beneficial to each other as far as the business is concerned. And you know, she's got Deadpool riding a unicorn. You know, sometimes you can have fun and be safe, and I think that's the best part about custom printed Kydex is we don't all have to be, you know, hyper tactical ninjas when we're at the range. And that's one of the things that I really try to watch out for. Like, you know, you can have Kydex guys make Kydex holsters, and you have Kydex guys who are instructors. And it's all a matter of like finding the right company with the right fit that does your model the way you like it. And sometimes you gotta try a couple of different ones before you find something you really like. And then once that happens, you're good as gold. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, as someone who does have and has had Safariland holsters, you know, that's what one of mine's rocking now, because one has a compensator on it now, but I still have a standard Kydex for just basic carry outside, something quick, fast, without any kind of like additional ALS or QLS, like the locking and retention system that the Safariland holsters offer. But sometimes that's actually kind of a better thing to carry, is without those additional features on there. And that's something that a Kydex holster offers. And you can still retain some of the retention and stuff like you were saying. And at the end of the day, like you said, I can get a custom holster for what, you know, $70 to $90 compared to 200, 160, 180, you know, and then you have to do all the QLS system that's attached to it as well. So, I mean, that stuff really adds up.
And I think that goes to show. So, look, I know prices have gone up, but if you say your average Glock is $600 and you can get a basic holster for 10% of that, I don't think that's a bad investment personally. No. You're keeping your gun secure. You're keeping it on your person. It's where you want it to be all the time. And that's, you know, that's something else. As you get into like some of the custom stuff, the price goes up, but the price doesn't go up that much when you think about it. You know, so if I'm rocking a $700 or an $800 Glock 19 because I've got it stippled and maybe I've got some slide cuts and I'm running a weapon light on it, you know, and I've got a modern red dot, you know, we're looking at $1,500, $1,600, $1,800 on your average Glock that you can see anywhere now. Yeah. So, you know, drop $100 on a holster, and oh, by the way, you can get the custom Kydex that you want. It's low profile, it's flexible yet rigid when it needs to be. It's kind of one of those things that I think is a very good suit for a lot of folks.
Yeah, and especially for your concealed carry people, and then, you know, and I think we've just been discussing just outside the waistband, but, you know, inside the waistband, I don't think there's really any other option. I guess there's a couple of different various options, but I feel like Kydex, I guess when I'm thinking inside the waistband, really Kydex is the only thing I'm thinking, to be honest. But what, you know, but like you said, you know, still some of those things, and then on top of that, while, you know, if it's being made and it's custom made, it may have a little bit of time to be made. Dude, sometimes Safariland, you can expect like a couple months on a wait time for a turnaround. And I think, you know, with Kydex, you're going to get a much faster turnaround, especially if you just want a simple setup too, right?
Oh, absolutely. So that's one of the biggest things a lot of people, you know, can bring up is as a point of like an objection, right? They're like, hey, well, I don't want to wait 2 or 3 weeks for a holster. I'm like, dude, I got you 100%. Right. In the age of Amazon and being able to go down and pick something up or have it delivered same day, I get it. I totally get it. That being said, you know, if you want to have what you want, there has to be a little bit of give on the consumer side as far as understanding that, especially like with me, I'm a one-man op, right? That's nobody's problem but mine. And I try to keep my lead times down, you know, 2 to 3 weeks, sometimes less, especially if we're doing something basic. But when you get a custom printed holster, there's a couple of things that go into it that I think a lot of people don't think about. So number one, I am not an end-all be-all Kydex wizard, right? I have a knack for it. I've done it for a long time, and I feel like I know what I'm doing. But I do not own the printer setup to put any image onto a piece of Kydex, right? I rely on a friend of mine named Dave, who runs Kydex Infusions out of Williamsburg. Mm-hmm. And he, alongside a couple other people around the country, they do Kydex sublimation, excuse me. So they take the image and they have these really high-end printers and they embed the image in the top layer of Kydex. So you have to get the design from the client. You have to then send the design over to your printer. The printer has to make a proof, right? It has some cost involved in it because they still have to use a sheet of Kydex and it's still their time, right? Mm-hmm. You got to pay people for their time and product. So you get that back, you send that back over to your client, make sure that's good to go. And then you get the sheet that you want, whether it's an 8x8 or a 24x24, cost depending on size and complexity of design. Then they got to ship it to you, right? And shipping's never free. And then you get the Kydex after waiting X number of days, because it depends on how busy the printer is. And then you see what your workload is on the bench versus what your promised time or your lead time that you try to stick with. And then you get the holster made, and then you have to check it. And sometimes that can all happen in one session. Sometimes it doesn't, right? And then I haven't experienced it a lot recently, but I remember first starting out, you go through all those steps, get a custom printed sheet of Kydex, and then you print it and it doesn't work, right? Shit. You mold it, you heat it, you finish it, you trim it, you put the gun in, and nothing happens. And it is just the worst feeling in the world. So now you have to get back in the horn with your printer. They have to ship you another sheet and blah, blah, blah. So it's one of those things where a lot of people are like, well, just get the custom piece of plastic and rock a holster out, right? It should only take 10 minutes. Well, unfortunately, like I said, with the blocking and stuff like that, a custom Kydex holster can take 2 or maybe even 3 hours. And that's once you have the material. You've got to set the gun up. You have to block out things like the mag well. You have to run channels down the sides of it to allow the light to go in and out. You have to clearance it for a red dot if that's what the customer wants. You have to take into account, are they going to run a compensator, or is this a threaded barrel with a thread protector? What is all that stuff going to work? And you can go the easy route and just chop the end off the barrel and be like, hey, dude, some of it's going to stick out. Hope you love it. And there's a lot of very successful holster manufacturers that do that. Yeah. That's one of those things that I'm really not a big fan of. Just because it works doesn't mean it can't look good, and just because it looks good doesn't mean it can work, right? So when you find that balance between aesthetics and functionality, I think that's when you win as a Kydex guy. But that stuff takes time, and as we all know, time is money. So that's one of the things that I like to encourage anybody who orders a holster from me to remember, like, hey, when I'm making you a holster, I promise if there's any issues or anything like that, we're going to get it taken care of, right? But at the end of the day, you got to give me time to make you a product that is, number one, safe for you to carry your firearm in, and then number two is what you're looking for out of a custom printed holster. And that's really what I try to bring to market.
Yeah, and I think some people are when they get the understanding and they have the background of the steps and the process it does take, I think that their patience is a little bit more. But like you said, I think a lot of people have like a misconception of it just being a thing where you said, like you said, heat it up and then you slam it down and then bam, bam, bolt, and then you're done. When there's a lot more steps to it and a lot of different, especially when it's something custom, And I remember you telling me and discussing about like the QLS and like the G codes stuff that, requires a little bit more finesse and touch to it as well. So it is interesting. So, and it's interesting. You brought up the part about the barrel and the compensators. I was always wondering, and this is just could be ignorance because I know that they have a really, really high heat tolerance, but I always wondered if like with the compensators, you can go do a bunch of shooting with them being, hot, just running really hot and doing a lot of shooting, if it would actually like, on points of contact with the compensator, if it would actually heat up to a point where there's, could possibly like warp any. And that's what I was going to wonder.
All right. So that's a really good point. So when I started out, we were using Kydex that was 0.060 thick, and 060 is great for really pulling out some crazy good definition, right? Like I can get tape lines to show up through the Kydex with 060. That being said, it becomes malleable at a much lower temperature range. We're talking 315, 325. Oh, yeah. And then you can jump all the way up to the other scale, which is like 0.1. Which is, it always kind of looks like you got a hard bag that you're throwing your holster in. There's very minimal definition, or it's tough to see all the work that goes into it. So on my holsters and a lot of my constituents, we really found that 0.080 Kydex is thick enough to give you the durability, but it's also malleable enough to where you can get some really cool definition. When you get a camo pattern, you're not going to be able to see any of the work we put into our stuff, unfortunately, if the camo is good. So with that comes the durability side. Now, all Pagan Ridge holsters are guaranteed for life, right? I will tell you, if you take your hot gun that you've been running all day and you just dumping mag after mag after mag after mag after mag, and it's smoking, and you put it in your holster in the summer and then throw that on your dashboard, it's going to deform. I guarantee you it's going to deform. So Kydex comes in a rigid sheet. It's just hard plastic, right? And what I run my temperatures to form my Kydex is not really proprietary, but it's kind of my thing, and different holster makers will run their stuff at different temperatures. But you can bet that most good holster manufacturers will heat their Kydex between 340 and 420 degrees. Okay. And that brings this rigid sheet down to almost a Play-Doh type consistency. Like, it'll be something you pick it up in the center and it's going to drape over your hands. Occasionally you see me make a post about burning myself because, sometimes you just don't think, and, oh yeah, you should put gloves on because it just came out of a 400 degree oven. It's pretty hot. Anyway, so Kydex will not revert back to its original form without getting to that temperature. That being said, one of the biggest things people ask me for is suppressor holsters. Yeah. Or like carriers. Like, you take a mag carrier for like a pistol mag and let's just make it for a suppressor. That sounds cool, but with the heat, I know it's going to deform the first time somebody uses it. I've tried it. I got mine to warp the very first time I used it. And so that's why you don't see a lot of those products on the market. That being said, if you're not comfortable putting the gun in your pants because it's warm enough, you probably shouldn't slap it back in your holster until you've given it a chance to cool down. If we're in a life or death situation, who cares? Buy a new holster, right? Nobody cares. Yeah. But if you're out of the range and stuff like that, it's just the same as, well, I'm not going to drive over my gun with my truck just because I can. Right? Will the gun survive? Probably. Can I do 10 mag dumps and then holster my weapon? Sure. But why not take care of your gear a little bit, right? So that's something that I offer a lifetime guarantee, because stuff like that does happen. You have a fun day at the range and it's summertime, especially out here in Virginia. It can get quite warm and quite humid. And if you have some deformation, that's, again, when you pick your right Kydex guy or gal to make you the right holster, this is the care after the sale that I really would like other people to really consider. If I do something dumb, or if my gun's too terribly hot and I deform the end of my holster a little bit, can I talk to these cats and are they going to be able to take care of me? And a lot of times we as manufacturers, you just send us the holster back. I know how to use a heat gun just like a lot of my other guys do, and we just fix it for you and ship it back right to you, and you're good to go. So customer care after the fact is also a key component I would ask a lot of people to think about when they're looking for a Kydex holster.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess, some people don't really think about it because, I'm not sure, I guess people don't really think that far down the line, because I can tell you right now, just in comparison to Safariland, getting some little parts and knickknacks from them can be very difficult. And they generally don't do it. They just pretty much tell you, whatever, go buy another holster if you want the parts. Replace it. That's where some of your smaller outfits, and, right. And I consider myself a smaller outfit. That's really where we can shine. Hey man,
I got a new belt and I've got 1.5 inch belt loops on my holster and I really need 2-inch belt loops. Okay. Ship them out to you in a day or two. And they're on your way, right? If you need hardware, we got the hardware, send it out. Mm-hmm. Who cares? My main goal is to let you have a product that you can purchase from me that you can rely on. And that goes a lot farther than just the original sale, you know, and I want people to have a partnership there. You know, you're trusting me with your firearm. And I think that's an ongoing relationship. I take that very seriously. So if there's a problem or if there's something good, or, hey man, I really love this one holster. I got a new gun. I really want a holster for it. You know, that's all the same conversation in my mind, as far as I'm concerned. I want people to be safe. I want them to have what they like, and I want it to work.
It seems like, you know, and just kind of just listening and just discussing this, and then even prior to this, it seems like you have a lot more compassion and a lot more, you know, like you said, a lot of interest in it, and you want to make sure is it a one-on-one relationship, and you take it very seriously. Do you see a lot of other Kydex companies that maybe don't take it quite to that level? And we don't have to say names, obviously, but I'm just saying, like, you know, whether it be someone like you said who just like, oh, I can do that, and they maybe order a Kydex kit, I don't know, or someone who, you know, or just other companies that just like, you know, whatever.
So here's where the meat and potatoes of that argument comes from. You can go to Knife Kits right now, knifekits.com, mm-hmm. and you can order everything you need to make a Kydex holster, right? You can do it yourself. You can mold it, you can cut it, you can order a blue gun off of them, you can order the Kydex off of them, you can order the eyelets, you can order the screws, you can order whatever you want, right? And then, you know, for $120, $150, you'll have yourself your own holster that you made yourself. And I would encourage anyone who wants to do that to please hit me up, because that's absolutely how I started. That being said, I have everything already set up. I've got, like I told you, 7 years worth of trial and error. Sure. If you saw the stuff I threw away,
painful.
It stinks, but I mean that's how growth works, right? Yeah. You learn from stuff that doesn't work. That being said, I do follow a couple of Kydex guys who are really good at what they do, and they interact with, you know, the people on their page, and there's also a couple. Trying to think of a constructive way to put this. There are a lot of Kydex companies out there who tout themselves as if they are a bender, then they are an expert, and they know more than you do, and you are lucky to deal with them. And oh, by the way, they have a 7-week lead time. And that's one of those things where I really get wrapped around the axle, because what I've noticed recently in the industry is if you're a Kydex guy, then automatically, apparently, you're a weapons expert and then a tactics expert. And that's something that I don't mind telling anybody, it bugs me, right? There are only so many ways to make an inside the waistband holster. You are wrapping a piece of Kydex around a mold. And I know I'm oversimplifying it, but that's what you're doing at the end of the day, right? I see some Kydex guys talk about how their holsters are better than everybody else's because of this and that and whatever. And it's one of those things that kind of is disheartening, because there is a ton of people who need holsters, right? Especially nowadays where gun sales are at a record high. You know, people are buying whatever they can get their hands on, whether it's good, bad, ugly, it doesn't matter. They want pistols, they want rifles, they're buying all this stuff. So there's plenty of space in the market for both structured, established Kydex companies to improve themselves, and the new Kydex companies to pop up and try to put their own stamp on the marketplace. Mm-hmm. And it's when you run into the guys who are like, no, mine's the best holster because of whatever particular reasons they have. You know, I put extra lines in my mold so I have a design on them, or whatever. Like, I think all that stuff's super cool, but at the end of the day, my whole market position has been clean, efficient Kydex designed around concealment. I want you to wear an outside the waistband, throw a soft shell jacket on or a hoodie, and that thing disappears. I want you to wear it inside the waistband and nobody knows you're carrying, right?
Yeah.
You will not see me running guns and tactics planning on my page just because I make holsters. That doesn't mean I'm a tactical ninja, and that's one of the things that kind of bothers me about some Kydex companies out there. And then the other thing is extra material. So this brings me to the sidecar discussion. If we can have a sidebar about this, I have a lot of people asking me.
I was going to say, I mean, and just on top of that, and so as someone who has run one of those before, I wasn't actually really a big fan of it, to be honest with you, but I did get a lot of requests and people asking if that was going to be an option or if that was something that was available. So let's talk about that for a second.
So sidecars are one of those things that, number one, there is one particular individual who I want to say was first to market. I don't want to say it was his idea, but he was first to market. And there's a lot of people. Yes, there's a lot of people with a lot of strong opinions, both for and against this particular individual and his company. And the fact of the matter is he was first to market with a product that nobody else offered, and that deserves some respect. That being said, there's a pretty big reason why they're not on my website. I've done a couple. I've run them, and they work as long as you work around the parameters with which it was designed, which is standing up all the time, minimal movements as far as like squatting down. Yes, you can wear them and sit down in a car, and yes, you can wear them and go over a wall or go through a building or go around obstacles in the woods. And the concept is solid. That being said, I felt like I was walking around with a dinner plate. I made one for myself. I made one for my buddies. And at the end of the day, if I need to slap a holster on because I'm taking the kids over to CVS and then we're going to go get ice cream, I'm not putting all of this crap on. It's kind of the same thing with, like the Safariland QLS. That's an amazing system. It's wonderful. You don't go to Walmart in a battle belt, or at least I wouldn't recommend it, right? Just because that's not real life. That's not everyday carry. And I really think Kydex, its perfect home is on the concealed side and on the low vis stuff. When I say 080 Kydex, you know how thick Kydex is. It's not very thick at all. So the whole intent behind it is to maintain a minimum profile. And when you start adding all this extra stuff, it looks super cool, and it absolutely does have a purpose, and it works for some people in certain circumstances. But as somebody who has made one and then purchased one from another company that made a lot of them and was very successful because I wanted to check it out, that's not really going to be my jam. I'm going to let that other company have what they came to market with first. And if somebody wants a sidecar, I'd recommend checking them out first, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. And so I guess for one, and let me clarify one thing too. I probably should have asked this earlier. So 0.080 Kydex, what is that like in comparison to like thickness wise? It doesn't have to be like strength, but like, is it like two credit cards stacked together? Is that about right?
Oh yeah, that's a great way to look at it. Yeah, absolutely. So I would say between 2 or 3 credit cards stacked together is a 0.080, and that comes back to where you're getting too much, to where you don't get the definition and it's added bulk, versus where is it too thin and you get crazy good definition, but it stays too flexible and it's too susceptible to heat. Yeah. It's just it's a fine balancing act between material quality and structural rigidity, and then, like I said, not adding too much extra crap onto it. Right?
And I think you were talking about the keep it simple, stupid, and I think that is 100% correct. So
I'm a big fan of the KISS method, right? You don't sell barbecue ribs out of an Italian restaurant, right? You go to the barbecue joint for barbecue ribs, right? You go to the Italian joint for the Italian. Kind of. I don't want to say stay in your lane, but that's something that should be considered.
Yeah. Well, and I was just going to carry off with the sidecar discussion, because so for those who maybe aren't as familiar, the sidecar is pretty much a holster where the firearm is positioned, and it also has a magazine positioned connected, but it's a one-piece design. Or sometimes people have like a little connector in the middle, but they're connected somehow, either literally as one piece or like a connector.
Yeah, so it's called a pancake style holster,
Gotcha.
and a lot of outside the waistbands are that. So you have two pieces of Kydex. You have what's considered an inside and then an outside, and then the holster, as far as the pistol, is inside, and that's what makes the holster. You can also have taco style Kydex, which is one piece of Kydex that's wrapped around, and the bend is normally where the sight line goes as far as the sight channel, like with the rear sights and the front sights. So on a sidecar style holster, you have a pancake style holster, but it holds a pistol on one side of it and a magazine on the other. And the trick is to have enough material to hold those two pieces where they need to be and not allow them to move within the holster, right, but still not have too much material where the end user can't bend over, tie their shoes, get in and out of a car without doing a ton of different moving around. And that's really where the sidecar excels when you're at range days. When you're standing up, when you're running, when you're standing still, when you're static, or when you're moving, everything is right there. You know it's going to be there. It's ready to rock, right? So the benefits of that are undeniable in that circumstance. But it goes sideways when you start thinking about everyday carry. I'm going to get in the car. I got to get groceries. I got to pick up the kids. Yeah. And if I'm just walking a dog all day, I'm great with a sidecar. It's perfect because I'm standing up. But when I'm in different positions, I personally, and I'm not a little guy, but I personally found that the sidecar was just too much material. That being said, one of the things I do is simply offer spare magazine carriers. And so you can build a sidecar style setup, but you just have the inside the waistband holster and you have the inside the waistband mag carrier. And that's one of my favorite options because that way I can move it around. So I Appendix Carry either a CZP07 or a Glock 19 with a TLR1. And I can have a supplemental mag carrier. So I've got an extra magazine along with one on the gun. I've got quite a few rounds to help me through my day, but I can manipulate those two items independently of each other, and my comfort level has gone up exponentially. No, it doesn't look as cool for pictures, right? But at the end of the day, I'm not looking for cool. I'm looking for comfort because if it's comfortable, you're going to carry it. And if you're not comfortable, exactly. It's got to work. Yeah. But if it's not comfortable, you're not going to carry it. And if you're not going to carry it, why are you buying it?
Yep.
Right.
That's kind of what I ran into. And so I can vouch that I'm a skinnier guy, and I tried the sidecar. Same thing. I don't want to say I jumped in the hype train. I had always just carried just standard, just in the magazine, and then I could have a spare mag somewhere on my body. And then I would normally have another spare mag, normally in my backpack or everyday carry bag. So I had one more mag just in case, but I'm not going to carry that many mags. I tried the sidecar to try and like simplify things. So that's my thought process on it. So, got one used actually, but it fit what I was carrying. And what you just said, I think, in my opinion, was nail on the head. As someone who tried carrying it every day, set up correctly, as soon as I think my thought process when I got in the vehicle, I was like, okay, I gotta have to adjust a little bit here, get kind of comfortable, because it's kind of like, it's like you said, it's like a dinner plate. Like when you said that, I was like, damn, that is on the money. Like that is exactly right. It is like a small dinner plate.
We keep going back to food. I'm sorry. It's one of those things.
I'm so hungry. But yeah, and so like I was going to the grocery store. And I remember I had to lean down to pick something up, and I could just feel just sliding right into me. And like I said, I'm a thinner guy. I'm a slim guy, and it was just not comfortable, like you said, going through daily things, like your everyday things of chores, or going from point A to point B to point C, and then back again, and then and I don't know. I wasn't. It just wasn't my setup. Like what you just said, having the spare mag and then the holster. That's generally what I do. And depending on what I'm wearing, I'll throw a spare mag in my pocket, which isn't the best, but sometimes it just depends what I'm doing.
Well, let's talk about what kind of day you're going to have when you have to go for that spare mag in that pocket. Right? Like you're already having a bad day. So let's look at it for what it is, right? Everything sucks at that point. And you know what? to get the mag out a little bit faster? Sure. Is it going to make that big of a difference? Dude, who knows?
Yeah.
So that brings up another good point is, one of the biggest things I talk about in concealed carry classes, even at the beginner level, is, you need to dress around your gun. And that is one of my favorite expressions, because ask a woman about concealed carry a pistol, and then talk to her about dressing around her gun. It's one of those things where, like, you say it and it sounds like it makes sense, but in execution, it can actually be really difficult. So us as dudes, wearing a belt with a pair of jeans or a pair of shorts, or dare I say cargo shorts, because apparently that's a dad move, that's not a big deal. Like, I can hook 4 different mag carriers up. I can carry M4 mags concealed with the right belt and the right size pants. But it comes to a point of diminishing return when you have that much material shoved in your pants, and then your risk of printing, which is what you don't want to do, which is why you're wearing a concealed carry pistol with a concealed carry holster. It kind of nullifies everything that you're doing. So the biggest thing is dress around your gun, right? Get some pants that are a little bit larger so you can maximize that space inside your waistband, right? But they can't be too big because you don't want them to be baggy. You got to get the right kind of belt, because you don't want the belt to be overtly tactical, because then everybody's going to tell, oh, well, that guy's probably carrying a gun. But you can't get some little Slim Jim from Walmart and expect it to hold the weight of your gun, and then you're throwing an extra mag in, right? Yeah, flop is my favorite word with that. So it's all a matter of finding what works best for you. And I know some people are going to be upset about what I said about the sidecar, and I do apologize, right? Because like I said, one of my biggest things when people come to me, because remember, I'm a Kydex spender, so now I'm firearms expert, what's the right gun for me to carry? And the right gun for you to carry is what's comfortable for you, right? If it's a Bodyguard 380, I don't agree with you. I think there's a lot better options. But you know what? If you can pull it, you can shoot it, and you can carry it confidently, and that's what works for you, then hell yeah, let's just go with it, right? I met a guy who I had to make an outside the waistband, but low profile, for a Deagle 50. And I was like, holy shit, this holster's massive. But this guy had a foot on me in every direction. I mean, he was 6'10".
Holy shit.
6'11". I mean, he was massive. So when he pulled out this Desert Eagle in 50 cal, it looked like a toy gun almost for him, right? And that's just, again, it's all relative, right? So you got to make sure you dress comfortably, wear what you want to wear, and find a Kydex holster, and find the extra mag carrier if you want, whether that's in your pocket or those little Neo Mag clips are kind of cool. I don't have any myself, but I've tried them, and I don't think they're a bad option for a lot of folks, because again, they're quick on, quick off, rock and roll. Mm-hmm. It comes down to what the end user is comfortable with. I wish more people would try different options before they get kind of caught up in the hype. And now, the sidecars can be $150.
Oh yeah, they're pricey, dude. They ain't cheap,
right? So not. Just try to make a good decision, right? That's all I ask anybody to do is, whether you buy one of my holsters, you buy one from, A&R Designs, or you buy one from Spearwolf, or you buy one from, the multitude of other people that are out there, just make sure it's going to work for you and what your daily life is, and try not to buy into the hype too terribly much.
Yeah. And I kind of say this in a bad way, and I could be wrong though, because maybe I just haven't been paying attention, but it seems like the hype that was built around those has kind of simmered down some. Like, I remember seeing them very, very sought after, whether it be on Reddit or some of the gun forums. Like, I used to see them want to buy everywhere I would go. Like, they would just be, every post would be a want to buy ad for one of those sidecars.
Yeah, Tax Swap was flooded with them for a while, of those want to buys. And then here's the other thing. If there's a lot available in the used market, then what does that say about the product?
Yep. I think
I'm not saying anything negative. I'm just saying, look at.
Well, I'm just saying, like, some people start to realize, they start to kind of see, like, well, as an everyday carry, Conceal, this isn't the most comfortable thing. And like you said, that's exactly what I did. I mean, after I rocked it for about a month and a half and ended up just, most of the time I was taking it out of that holster, putting it in the basic clip-on inside the waistband holster, and I was just rocking it how it was before I got it. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and sell this thing. I don't need it. I'm not going to use it.
Well, that was my thing, right? Like I bought it. Like, okay, maybe we're not at the same level as far as business and production and stuff like that. But I want to see what all the hype is about. And I got it. I'm like, all right, this is cool. I think the Mac 10's really cool too, but I don't carry one every day. You know what I mean?
It definitely looks cool.
That's kind of what I go with it.
Yeah, and again, something else I should have brought up as well is with this holster, you're running an Appendix Carry with this holster, and if you weren't aware or if you're not as savvy, Appendix is literally the front of your body. So if you are standing, it's literally right above your crotch on the front. So it's literally
So
right
would you believe it or not? Not everybody likes to run an Appendix holster.
Oh,
absolutely. I know that's crazy to think about nowadays, absolutely. But that's the other side of this, right? So when you're considering a holster, all my holsters come with at least 3 holes on average, because there's this thing called cant, and the FBI cant is famous. If you find a leather holster, chances are it will be set up for FBI cant, because it was the way to carry a holster in the 80s and 70s, 80s and 90s, which was strong side, back of the hip bone. So like if your center line is the middle of a clock and 12 o'clock is directly in front of you, 3:30 to 4 o'clock behind your hip bone was the preferred.
You're breaking up a little bit for me.
I'm sorry. Here,
there you go.
Back over. So, how's that?
There you go.
All
Perfect.
Right. So, what I was saying was, okay. So, one of the things with Appendix Carry is that not everybody carries that way. If you're standing still and directly in front of you is 12 o'clock and directly behind you is 6 o'clock, a lot of people have gone to strong side carry or what's called FBI carry or FBI cant at the 3:30 or 4 o'clock position. You put your firearm there inside your waistband, but you need to cant the weapon or tilt the weapon, normally 25 to 30 degrees. And what that does is that it physically moves the firearm, so the barrel is no longer pointing at the ground, but it's pointing a tiny little bit behind you, but it takes the mag well of the weapon and hides it behind the back of your hip bone. So it's a lot easier for concealment. So one of the things that you can't do with a sidecar holster that you can do with your average inside the waistband is you can modify where you're going to carry it, right? So Appendix Carry isn't comfortable for everybody, but they still want an inside the waistband holster. Well, then you need to find a holster manufacturer that can make the clip that you're using, or soft loops, or whatever kind of retention system that holster manufacturer decided to go with to keep that holster on your gun belt, to move it to where it is most comfortable for you to carry and where it disappears the best on your particular waistline. And that's something else that I want a lot of people to really take into consideration when they're looking for a Kydex holster is, do I have these options? Because it's very easy for a manufacturer to set up Appendix Carry, right? Your clip is straight up and down, piece of cake, rock and roll. But that doesn't always work for everybody. So you need to make sure you have the options that are going to work best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're 100% right too, because I think that's one other aspect is not every, and like you said, one that's keeping it simple, but at the same time, not every holster is built for every single person. Like a Smith machine, right? You go to the gym, a Smith machine's made, it does not move. Well, a Smith machine does not work for every single type of body and stuff, and I guess the same for a holster and stuff. But I'm the same way. And Appendix holster has kind of really blown up. When would you say Appendix holsters have kind of really become a mainstay? And maybe it's I can
tell you with me. Yeah, I know they've been around for a while. I can tell you, I've really seen them blow up over the past 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
What really changed it for me, because I used to carry strong side behind the hip, right? That's a little bit of department issue, like conversations, and that was a little bit like Masad Ayub, like, you know, that's how he had it in his concealed carry handbooks and textbooks, and so if it was good enough for him, it was going to be good enough for me, right? I really switched over to Appendix Carry when I took a couple of combatives courses quite a few years ago, and we did handgun retention. And more so when you have somebody who is looking at you, has decided that you have a pistol, and they've decided that they wanted it. And my personal decision to go to Appendix, and again, I think it's whatever you're comfortable with is what you should go with. But my personal decision to go with Appendix Carry came from going up against a guy who was experienced and motivated to take my gun from me. And I realized that having my pistol on my body at that 3:34 o'clock location behind my right hip bone was not optimal for handgun retention. I could do a lot more to keep the gun on my person when it was at my 1 o'clock or 12:30, because that's where I keep mine. I don't keep it perfectly center line. I kick it off to the side because it kind of rides in between my thigh and where everything else is. So that's the most comfortable for me. But again, this comes down to a personal choice. It's what you're familiar with and what's comfortable for you. And I'll go back to that whole, if it's comfortable, you're going to carry it. If it's not comfortable, you're not going to carry it. Just might as well keep it locked in a safe. You know what I mean?
Yep. And you're 100%, dude. I remember, that was another conversation, and that's not on the holster portion itself, but, same thing. You know what? So for me, I'm about the same way. I'm about 12:30, 1 o'clock. Generally speaking, and I do carry a smaller pistol because, one, I'm a smaller frame, smaller body, but I try to make it as much as a pack, so I normally will carry a 43 with a little extensions on it. I used to carry a 19, but when it's so hot in South Carolina, so humid, you know, carrying
I know it well.
Yep, and when it starts to, you know, more and more bulk, you know, and then wearing kind of just different types of clothes that fit me, you know, at the end of the day, kind of, I just will print too much. And having a smaller frame, it just, same thing. So, you know, I remember I was chatting with something on, I think it was on Instagram, and people were like, "What? You know, why don't, you know, I carried a Glock 34 or a Glock 17," which, like, I was like, well, you know, that's awesome for you. But when I was carrying a Glock 19 and a Glock 17, I was concealed carrying a lot less because, one, it didn't fit my clothes most of the time. Like, you know, same thing. It was just one of those things. It was like, okay, I'm just going to the store. I don't feel like throwing this on. This is just, you know, I don't feel like sweating, you know, having freaking thing pressed up against, and, you know, just, you know, being uncomfortable, you know, just based on what I was wearing. And I would always wear a correct belt, because that was the one thing I found out when I did start concealed carrying, like what you said, the flopping, you know, and it kind of really does reduce kind of comfort and then being able to actually maintain the firearm as well. But yeah, I would just, it would be extremely obvious I was carrying a firearm at times, wearing a 19 or 17 or the 19X. And so,
yeah, because you're always digging in your waistband, right? You're always adjusting it. You're always moving it. And one of the biggest things I want to remind people, when you're concealed carrying, the only other people you think are going to be looking, excuse me, you think everybody can see that you've got a gun on you, right? And the truth is 99% of the people that you interact with when you're concealed carrying are not going to pay any attention at all, right? The only people who are going to notice are other concealed carry people who are practicing their regular observation techniques that they need to be doing, you know, just paying attention, situational awareness. And then police officers, and then I'm going to use the generic term of bad guys, right? So 99% of the people who think they have a problem printing, nobody's going to notice, right? That being said, when I notice somebody printing, I get really antsy about it. I'm like, ugh, this guy obviously doesn't care. Why is he carrying a firearm? Blah, 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 blah. I get all judgy and weird. So that brings me up to another really good point, which is you can have more than one firearm to conceal carry, right? And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't believe in summer carry versus winter carry, blah, blah, blah. Again, if it's comfortable, you're going to carry it. And why have a gun if you're not going to carry it, right? So I think the Glock 43, the 48, P365, 365 XL, the Shield, the new Shield EZ, all of those single stacks with mag extensions. I mean, you can get your round count that you need. You're still running a 9mm. And I think those are extremely viable options that I would encourage everybody to look at, because like you said, dude, summertime in Charleston, man, it's like walking through a soup. Miserable. Right?
Yeah, it's miserable.
It's hot.
And like what you just said, like when it starts getting colder, I have more layers, I'm wearing thicker clothes, then yeah, I can get away. Right? Yeah, I can get away with a larger firearm, and I've done it before. It's not a big deal. But when you, some people I don't think have an idea how hot, and it's not even the heat, it's the humidity. The humidity is killer, and it's killer. It just,
yep.
And then on top of that, you start sweating too much. Well, then guess what? Your shirt starts sticking to you, and then wham, bam.
Hey, look what I'm carrying in my waistband.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So, that's another aspect of it. So, yeah, I'm 100% with you. That's a great, and all for the people who can conceal carry those larger firearms, man. Oh man, I'm jealous of you. I really am, but I'm not one of them. I'm not one of them. And like you said, just if I know that I can carry it, throw it on real quick, I'm 100%, I'm just much more likely now. And that's just one of those things. I figured that out the hard way, whether it just me going through what I saw, cool hype thing, whether it be like a sidecar kind of thing, I had a 19 MOS with an RMR and an X300, and honestly, that's a heavy motherfucker when you're carrying a gun in a sidecar.
Dude, that's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot. Plus you got another mag, 17, 18 rounds.
And so, I mean, doing that, it's just, damn, man, it's like I'm carrying a child with me,
Yep. So, and then run around on a range all day in the sunshine, and it's 100 degrees outside. And now, not only is your dinner plate moving all over the place that you don't want it to, but now it's soaking wet.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then electronics and water don't mix. And I know that optics, wise, 90% of the time they should be fine. I won't put it on blast right now. Maybe I'll bring it up in a second. And something you just brought up was the fact of running around and stuff. And that was something else. When you have a lot of weight and you're running and it's right in your appendix, it's going to have, unless you have it bolted down 100% where it's not moving, it's going to bounce some. It's going to start kind of moving. There's weight there. That's going to kind of go there.
With you get that lovely chafing thing going on, which is a lot of fun, because you can secure it to where it doesn't move, but then you can't move, right?
Yep. Something's going to give.
What's the biggest thing you got to do is you got to be able to move.
Yep.
So,
100%. Yeah. So it's just kind of funny. Just, people, I don't think people really think about that. Cause I mean, technically speaking, I guess at least in most states and some states, technically the first thing you're supposed to do is you're supposed to retreat before you use lethal force. It has to be your very last thing that you're able to do is to use lethal force to protect yourself. So if you're trying to escape, trying to run away, and then you're running around and something bounces out, your gun bounces out, holster gets uncomfortable, or falls off when the clip gets one off your belt. This is another thing to practice get a good belt when you're concealed carrying. Then you're even in more of a quandary. So,
it is an escalating scale for sure. You can snowball quickly.
Yes, you can.
And it brings up another point, which is the attachment options, right? So, I've recently switched over to Discreet Carry Concepts monoblock clips, and yes, I am mentioning them by name because I genuinely think they're one of the best things that have ever happened to concealed carry. I don't care if you're carrying leather. I don't care if you're Kydex. I don't care if it's one of those hybrid abominations. Like, just they've made a metal flexible clip that has positive retention with and without a belt. And I think it's the best one in the market. And they have yet to send me any stuff for free. So I'm going to remind them of that. Right. I pay for everything I buy. But, it's one of those things where I decided to put those on my holsters because I think it's better. And I've played with it and I've practiced it and I carry it on my own. And I went from thinking it was better to I know it's a better attachment option. So I want to remind folks, when you get your holster, plastic clips were the norm for a long time. Yeah. There's just, oh my gosh, there's just so many better options out there for 10 or 20 bucks, man. And it's a firearm, right? Like, we talk about making cool patterns and like making funny stuff. And if you want a Care Bear holster, dude, I'll hook you up, right? But at the end of the day, it's got to be safe. right? We can have fun with the patterns and the designs, but at the end of the day, we're carrying a firearm for defense of ourselves and our loved ones. And that firearm needs to stay where you need it to stay until you need it. And then when you need it, you need to be able to retrieve it, right? So I wish there was a way you could rent different styles of holsters so you could find for yourself. Maybe that's a new marketing opportunity you and I can work on. I'll get a bunch of Dasani, Bass Pro Shop, Walmart, quote unquote suede leather
Uncle
holster
Mike.
trials. And
So
Uncle Mike. So I ran an Uncle Mike's, full disclosure. I ran an Uncle Mike's years and years ago with a Smith & Wesson SD40 VE, two-toned. I had one of the cringiest setups ever. So if you guys hear me talk negatively about something, I promise you it comes from a place of experience and humbleness.
Yeah.
Because I was that dude with an Uncle Mike's nylon holster with a 40 cal semi-compact, god-awful handgun. You know what I mean? So I earned the right to be a little judgy at this point, I feel.
You can do that. And I honestly think, well, let me say this. For someone who maybe is getting into it or just something they're very interested in or trying to learn, I think everyone kind of ventures down that path at least one point. Because it's, at the end of the day, if you're just getting into it, or say you just turned 21, you just spent all this money on the firearm. I mean, hell, and I'm not even talking about ammo prices right now, but just like if you're buying, hollow points and getting your spare mag and blah, 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 that adds up
now
to...
I got to spend $100 on a holster? Are you kidding me?
Exactly.
I'm not going to do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's what ends up happening. Yeah, and that's what ends up happening, especially when you're kind of tight on the budget and, oh, man, this is just as good as, Uncle Mike's, such and such.
Ooh, just as good. Yep. You uttered the forbidden phrase.
Yeah, I know. Some people don't like that. It needs to be said, though. And that's what ends up happening, And that's when you have the person who maybe didn't read up or has as much experience, or maybe they weren't paying attention in their concealed weapons class if they had to take one, and they weren't paying attention, on how to really get away from that, that, like you said, that, concealed carry and knowing how not to print and kind of being out of that, being noticed and stuff.
Well, and that comes back to, again, Kydex is new in the market for a lot of folks, and that includes concealed carry instructors, and not everybody's going to be well versed with that, even though they may be well versed with firearm and the practice of carrying a firearm. That doesn't mean that everybody's going to understand Kydex, and some people are going to laugh at it just like they do, call Glock's Tupperware, right? Only real gun is Kemper 1911. The only real holster is a nice American hide leather holster. And I think there's a lot of bad information out there because, again, anytime anybody tells you that this is the best thing you can have, I think has an agenda personally, right? We didn't all start driving our Mercedes, right? We all started with different levels of cars, and maybe you had to build your own, or you had to buy a junk car like me that didn't run, or, maybe somebody in your family gifted you a car and it was great and was brand new. But we all start from different points, right? But none of us start out as Formula One drivers. We all got to start at a different level. And I think that's one of the biggest things a lot of people forget is like, look, do the best you can with your budget, as long as there's an intent to be better, right? And I think that goes as far as holster manufacturers, right? That's something I'm always looking to do. I'm always looking to improve my design. I'm always looking to improve, when I do a hand form, I'm always looking for ways to make it better, right? And I will never promise that anything's 100% perfect, but I can tell you I'm going to strive for it, right? And that's one of the things I think a lot of people really miss is like, well, I'm buying a gun and this is all I can afford, so this is what I want to get, and this is all I can afford, this is what I want to get. There's nothing wrong with that. But find somebody who knows more than you do, who's willing to help you learn why an Uncle Mike's holster is not the right holster, or why a Serpa holster is not ideal, right? And I'll talk about them for 2 seconds. So Suppressor Holsters are made by Blackhawk. They're patented by Blackhawk, and they experienced, again, a lot of usage in the 80s and 90s, and even up into the early 2000s with a lot of police departments. And they are the number one holster. Hang on 1 second. Sorry about that.
You're good.
They are the number one holster that is involved in officer shootings, right? Where they have a negligent discharge on themselves. And they got a really bad rap for a really long time because everybody's like, oh, that's the holster you're going to use to shoot yourself. I want a lot of people to like stop and take a look at the sheer number of Serpa holsters made versus the number of incidents, right? That being said, that is a design from the 80s. There's better stuff out there, so don't just go buy it just because that's what's on the shelf.
Yeah.
Right? Do a little bit of Google research and go from there.
You know what else came from the 80s? I think 40 cal. We know how great that is. Was it? I know.
FBI.
I know the FBI
who pushed the 40 cal. Yep.
Yeah, I know it was the FBI, but it was the 80s though, wasn't it? It was Hoover. I think.
It was. And that was done on ballistics specifically for vehicle ballistics.
Yeah.
Because a 40 had the quote punch to get through windshields and car doors and stuff like that. And honestly, dude, right now, if you think 40 is where you're at, I'm gonna call you a wuss unless you go to a 10 mil. I'm a big fan of the 10 mil. I don't like the 40. I like the 10 mil. It's only a little bit different, but let's go up a notch, right? Let's not stop the intruder behind his car because he's trying to run me over. Let's stop the grizzly bear that's in the pickup truck that's trying to run me over, right? Go 10 mil if we're gonna go. Otherwise, carry a 9 mil and you're good.
I'm about to say, I know it's just funny how things change very rapidly, but I even starting off, unfortunately, I do have 140 still, one left that I cannot get rid of. Typical.
Oh, you're probably laughing about ammo though, because 40's the only ammo I've been able to see on the shelves, and I don't own anything that runs it.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, luckily, I'm a little more blessed with ammo because I'm very cunning with getting ammo, and two, I have a little bit put to the side. So I kind of had a feeling that something like this was going to happen, and I ordered a decent amount before really COVID kind of hit. I was thinking elections. January of 2020.
Smarter than the average bear. That's good.
And I was like, elections, I'm gonna go ahead and start bulking up, going and get some ammo so I can continue shooting, and that way I don't have to stop and start getting just gouged to death. And then the next thing I knew, COVID's kind of a thing, and it's not really going anywhere, and the ammo is even worse now. And so I actually wanted to buy more, and I lucked out with a friend back in like June of last year, and I got some more, but I really wanted to buy a lot more, and now looking at prices, I wish I had bought even more than I did. But story for another time. But yes, it's weird. Like, it just seems like ammo just rapidly evolved, and ballistics and different types of ammo that's being distributed and different types of loads and stuff. And so now 9's a lot more viable option, and I think it always has been really. At the same time, because if you can't hit your target, regardless if you are practicing or not, it's a lot better to put more rounds on target than shooting once, hitting them and maybe in the gut, and you miss every other shot.
What's that old adage, right? Yeah. Like, fast is fine, but accuracy is final.
Exactly. Yeah. I know if Granola's listening, I'm sure he's laughing his ass off right now. But yeah, that's 100% right. Yep, it's 100% right. So I mean, it's like that's just what it comes down to. And then it also makes it a viable option for multiple other people who can shoot a 9mm compared to maybe a small compact 40. So for instance,
what? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so like you kind of mentioned like women and stuff like that, and I'm going to bring up something in a second. And if you're not doing this already, then you should already start doing that. But with a 9mm, for instance, my wife hates shooting 40. She actually wasn't a bad shot with 40. I just want to make that clear. She's not a bad shot shooting. It's actually her 40. So just clarify, it's not mine. But we still do own a 40. But, she wasn't a bad shot. But, if like life or death situation, you pull a gun out and you are stressed out, high anxiety, you have a lot more factors that are going to go on. And anything you can bring that factor down a little bit, whether it's just making it a little bit more controllable weapon with a smaller round, then, hey, that works, but more rounds on target. And she enjoys shooting 9. So
there you go. It's just easier, right? It's less, I'm going to use the technical term snappy.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
Recoil mitigation is a thing. It absolutely is. Grip matters. As my boys at the GBRS group have pushed out onto the interwebs. But there's a lot to be said for that, right? So that leads me to another point, whereas I have some questions on folks when they get a Kydex holster. Maybe this is their first one, or they don't have a lot of familiarity with it. Is break-in, right? With leather holsters and with nylon holsters, there's mostly leather holsters. There's a lot of conversation around breaking the holster in, right? And first and foremost, if anybody tells you a Kydex holster needs to be broken in, please do not purchase a Kydex holster from that person because they have no idea what they're talking about. Kydex is what it is, right? Unless you heat it, or unless you modify the retention by removing screws or wedging them down or something like that, it's pretty much how it is. That being said, one of the best things you can do when you purchase a new Kydex holster is dry fire with it. Dry fire is one of those things that's going to help you long term no matter what. It's going to help you be more accurate on the range when you go out with your buddies. It'll help you be more accurate if you do any competitions or anything like that. And it will certainly help you with your base level mechanics under stress in a worst case scenario, right? So the first thing you need to do when you get your Kydex holster is unload your firearm, right? Make sure there's a thin coat of oil on the inside of the Kydex, because while it is super smooth after the process, it's still a good idea just to keep a little bit of high quality gun oil on the inside of it. And that's just a basic maintenance thing, right? But practice with your holster, whether it's an outside the waistband QLS with a flipping hood, or whether it's a bare bones inside the waistband pistol only, no light, no RDS. Practice dry firing in this environment with all of the ammo restrictions we've got, and then some of the ranges are getting weird with their COVID stuff and only allowing X number of people in, and you can only shoot over here and all that other nonsense. Dry fire is an excellent way to help keep your fundamentals where they need to be. And while dry fire will never replace live fire, it's definitely something that anybody can do at any point in time, as long as they have a handgun and then they're handling it responsibly, right? So just make sure you unload your weapon 100%, check and make clear, a little bit of oil, rock and roll. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't do. They buy their Kydex holster and they slap their Glock 19 in it and they roll off to the Quickie Mart. And I think that's great, right? But let's make sure the retention that I set for you as the holster maker is going to work for you on what you want. I personally don't keep much retention at all in my inside the waistbands, because it's inside my waistband. It is concealed. It is hidden. If I'm doing what I need to do, nobody knows I have it. I want to get that gun out if I need to get it out, right? On an outside the waistband, I keep the retention pretty freaking high. I don't want to be at 7-Eleven buying my monsters, which I do have a terrible habit. And some dude be able to grab it off of me because I didn't go with an extra level of retention like a hood or something like that. So I keep my outside the waistband holsters a little bit higher retention. Plus, when I'm wearing an outside the waistband, chances are I'm at a match, or I'm doing something out with the boys, or we're out in the woods. And the chances of that gun getting banged around a little bit, or me, falling on my ass or something like that, that can happen. So 100%. I keep that a little bit higher. But dry fire is absolutely one of the things you should do as soon as you get your new Kydex holster. Whether you buy it from me, you buy it from anybody else, that doesn't matter. Practice with it.
Yep. And I'm gonna give my little piece in here. Let's see. Does this still work? Let's see here.
We'll do it live. Okay.
It does work. Awesome. I want to make sure. But yeah, so and like you said, live firing and dry firing, 100% too, especially with the ammo. But it still shocks me, and excuse me if you do. I don't think you do though. But people who do not conceal carry with a round in the chamber.
Oh my God! We don't have another hour for me to get on my soapbox and yell like a boomer.
I know.
But holy crap, guys! If you're going to carry concealed, please keep one in the chamber. Oh, yep. I can't. You will not. There's a method, and it's called Israeli carry, where they practice fundamentals with drawing and charging the slide, and that's a part of the training. And I just, buddy.
Listen, if you have good firearm fundamentals, and if you're practicing dry firing with an unloaded firearm, nothing in the chamber, obviously, then you will know. Keep your finger away from the trigger until you're ready to pull the firearm, or I'm trying to think of what Granola was telling me. So forgive me, but we're at this point we're just talking about novices. You know, obviously if your finger's on the trigger, it means you are preparing to fire. You know, every firearm.
Well, the gun shouldn't be out if you're not ready to shoot.
Exactly,
right?
And that's exactly right.
Further.
And that's exactly
Don't
right.
Don't brandish your firearm. That's a felony. I don't care what state you're in. That's a bad day, right? Don't do it.
Yep.
If you're gonna pull the gun out, you better shoot.
Yep, that's exactly right. Yep. And so, you know, keep around. Keep around
in the flipping chamber.
Good
Those are the
Lord.
same guys who drive around and say, I don't need to wear my seatbelt because I'll have the quick reaction time to put my seatbelt on before I get in an accident. Like, bro, either live with it or don't.
Yep.
And I say that intentionally, right? As somebody who drives around without a seatbelt on fairly often, because it's a bad habit, but it is what it is. You're gonna have to accept it. Yep. Right, but please don't ever think you're that fast. That's the same crowd that's like, well, don't keep one in the pipe on a shotgun, rack it, and that'll scare them away.
Good Lord, man.
Yep. I don't tie my shoes because I'm not going to go running. Like, what the hell, man?
Yeah, you might as well just
I break it down to those fundamentals. I really do.
Put the firearm in the damn glove box at that point, because it's going to take you just as long to get the damn gun out than it is to pull the firearm out and then put a round in the chamber with the magazine. You know, it's just
that is a pet peeve of mine. Just like not using a turn signal. You can't.
Oh my
you
God,
have the ability. Just choosing to be an ass. Like, stop it.
Well, I think people just get a little nervous and a little bit, you know, anxiety because there is a live firearm, and no matter where they're carrying it, whatever position. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's, you know, if you're in I don't want to say the heat of battle, sounds too cringy. Sounds too but
it's a bit cringy, yeah. But if you're in the heat of the moment and you're having the worst day you've had so far, let's not add an extra step.
Yep. Simplify again. Keep it simple, stupid. So yeah,
big fan.
It's just one of those things, man, and it just blows my mind. And I still know some people who do it, and I'm just telling. I'm like, okay, so if I'm coming at you, do you think you have enough reaction time to draw your firearm out and then manipulate the firearm? Because it then requires you to use two hands 99% of the time to put a round in the chamber, and that way, you know, there's nothing you can do. And you have to look at the firearm too. So if you have, you know,
it's like the appendix thing for me, right? I carried strong side back of the hip for a couple of years, and then I got into a class. You know, because that's where the department had us at. You know, it was directly at 3:00. It was the most uncomfortable freaking thing. You ever driven in a car with an outside the waistband holster with a Glock 17 on your? It's just, I'm like leaning on the driver's door. Anyway, but that's all I knew. Right, that was the only training I had. It was horrible. I didn't realize it at the time, but I know it now. Right, so you know, I carried 330, but the only time I realized that was a mistake for me. Was when I was in a class and somebody really wanted to get my gun. And I would encourage folks who are like, oh, no, you know, I can keep one. Dude, go find a combatives course or a DT course and ask them to incorporate blue guns and see how quickly you can fall apart, right? I did it. I saw how trash I was at it, and it sucks. It really sucks when you have a guy who knows what he's doing, who's like standing on top of you with your only gun. He's like, all right, well, you know, tell me what St. Peter says. It's like, you know, that sucks. It just sucks because it's embarrassing. You got thrown on your butt. Somebody ripped your gun away from you because you didn't know what the hell was going on. And nobody likes to admit that they failed in a situation, right? But sometimes you need to fail so you can see where the holes are so you can start plugging those holes, right?
Yep.
So I would encourage anybody who's like, my carry method is the best. Cool. Test it. Friggin' test it. You can buy blue guns on Amazon for $40-$50. Test it.
Yep. 100%.
I'll send you
man.
a blue gun if you need a training tool, right? Like I'm a huge proponent in that. And again, just because something works for me or doesn't work for me, doesn't necessarily mean it won't work for somebody else or it will work for somebody else, right? I wish people would take it a little bit more seriously. I don't drive around in my car all day with an eighth of a tank of gas, knowing that I can stop at a gas station.
Yeah,
just fill it up.
That's just one of those things.
Fill your mag up.
I don't know why. I don't know why people do that. It's such a weird thing, and too, it's just, again, I think it kind of comes back to first-time firearm owners and thinking that they know best, and they have a firearm now, so that, you know, they have some kind of form of power, and they can't be wrong, and
And there's a lot of firearm instructors who should not be firearm instructors, right?
That's very true.
There's a lot of bad information out there. So one of the things I always encourage folks to do is, you can hit me in the DM, or you can shoot me an email, or some of y'all can call me, and just I will give you the best information I have at hand for what I've got cooking. And this is simply based off of me making multiple hard mistakes over a period of time, being involved with this, maybe more so than your average Joe or Jane would be. So that's the other thing. I encourage anybody to ask me any questions, and I will help the best I can based on my personal experience, right? I am not a gun guru. I am not a tactic ninja. You will never see a video of me rappelling down a wall. I'm just trying to do the best I can. You know what I mean? That would be cool. But I've been in a couple of shoot houses. I've been to some competitions. I've been on the job with a gun. I've got a little bit of experience, not a lot. But what I have, and then what I see, I just want to be an opinion or something like that to help people out. That's literally all I'm trying to do.
Absolutely.
And, like I said before, you buy a holster for me, you buy a holster for somebody else, I don't care. Just make sure it's a good decision for you, and you're going to freaking run it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to tack this little thing on, and I'm sure you won't take offense to it, but, and this also goes to when it kind of goes back to the training portion, and then who you're going through, and not every instructor needs to be an instructor, but just because they have a law enforcement background or a military background also does not mean they are a good instructor or they're knowledgeable.
Preach.
And,
good grief, preach.
And I'm not saying the guys are out there. There's no disrespect, because obviously the guys that I do know, they do have those backgrounds, and they are bad motherfuckers. Like that is just what it is. And there's dudes who don't have that background who are very good firearm. I wouldn't say they're firearm instructors, but they are good shooters, and they know what they're doing because they're trained up. But just because you heard from Joe Bob because he was retired law enforcement for such and such, or he was in the Marines or in the Army, does not mean he is a qualified professional to teach you and instruct you. That's just all.
Just because you've been doing it for a long time doesn't mean you've been doing it well.
Yep.
Right?
And it's exactly right. So I'm just saying, if you're doing that research and you're looking around, that does not mean that they know what they're talking about. And I can tell you right now, I think my concealed weapons class, I was taught by Joe Bob, backwoods hunter, and it was a shit show. I remember very vividly. I think I was the best shooter out of about 15 people, and there was about 12 people in that class that didn't need to be in there in the first place. So,
well, and I've run into some guys, some soft guys who obviously knew their shit. They have been through more in 3 or 4 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan than most people will ever see in their life. They knew what they were doing. They were good at what they were doing. Couldn't teach worth a damn.
Absolutely.
Could not verbalize, and just resorted to, I'm going to yell at you the whole time, and we're going to do that. And it's for some people that works, and for some people it doesn't. So it's a balance between finding an instructor who, number one, didn't falsify their credentials, because Lord knows there's a lot of that going on today.
Oh, yeah.
And then number two, who can actually teach and not just yell commands and then yell at you for what you're doing. And those are the guys who are the diamonds in the rough, because just like there's a billion Kydex makers, there's a billion different quote unquote firearms instructors. Right.
Yep. And it seems like
there's a billion used car salesmen.
God, man, and it's getting even worse. And I was just talking to someone else about this today, and it's just becoming more and more popularized just because of social media. And the thing in hand is just because you see a cool video and someone's doing it really cool and they're very good at cinematography, does not mean they're a good instructor or what they're doing is applicable for what you need, And I'm seeing it more and more, like you said, and there's definitely some guys out there, and I've discussed this with someone else as well. I think on the Jerry the podcast I had with him, same thing. There's a lot of guys, they don't know how to teach, they don't know how to instruct. Just because they've been doing it, which they know how to do it, but they're in their own element, and at the end of the day, they they didn't grow up with the aspirations of becoming a teacher. So, remember that, it's just some guys.
Teaching's hard.
Yeah, it is. And you have
it's difficult.
You have to reach to different people. And they may be used to dudes who are hardcore professionals, and you're coming in as a novice, and you're very blue to concept, phrasing, wording, and that may be kind of frustrating for them because they don't know how to conceptualize what you need. So I agree 100%. Like, finding a good instructor who knows how to teach, knows how to be, base level, because at the end of the day, you're spending your hard-earned money going somewhere trying to better yourself. Make sure it's well spent,
Oh, and it's just like anything else, right? You got to find a good automotive repair shop.
Yep.
They're not all equal, right? You got to find a good tattoo artist. They're not all equal, right? You got to find a good gun shop. You got to find a good holster guy. You got to find a good instructor, right? It's all a matter of don't rush to get what the coolest thing is out there.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't rush any of it, right? Find something that works for you. And, if you don't know what firearm you want to carry, if you're just getting into this, or say you're walking around, I got a 34 with an X300 and an RMR. Super cool. I can't conceal carry this thing. There's no way. What gun do I need to go get? Go to a range and rent a couple, right? Rent a couple of different ones, and that costs some money. Yeah, well,
which way you want to lose money?
$200 here for you to figure out what gun's going to work best for you, and then purchasing the firearm is a lot better than spending, $600, $700, $800 on a gun if you can find one now, only to find out that it doesn't quite fit you, right? And I always recommend that to anybody who's trying to introduce a gun to a new shooter is, please, for the love of God, let them try some different guns. And I'll even go as far as to try some different calibers. I still think everybody should carry a Glock.
Yeah.
I still think everybody should carry a Glock in 9mm, right? Whether it's single stack or double stack, knock yourself out. That's only because I make holsters for them. I have made holsters for them for a long time. They're nice. They're square. They're really easy to get dialed in, right?
They're very readily available as well.
Yeah. So, but no, me being selfish aside, everybody needs to figure out what works best for them. And anybody who's trying to take somebody to shoot, please just let them learn on their own and let them figure out what's comfortable for them, because what works for me is not going to work for my buddy, right? Yep. And what my dude who 100%. Was a teams guy said that was the best thing he had, well, that was the best thing he had that he was issued, and that was 10 years ago, right? What is out there now, right? So and that's really where it comes down to. Like, if the good instructors will help you learn, the good people who are trying to sell you stuff will sell you stuff at your level with what you're comfortable with. A firearm, a gun, your car, it doesn't matter, right? That's where the good people separate themselves from the bad people, is just being able to meet the needs of the client while educating the client, right? Yep. Sometimes that means I make a sale. Sometimes that means I lose a sale. At the end of the day, though, as long as somebody is benefiting from this and they're going to be better, and then we're going to help bring them into this community of shooters and responsible gun owners, then I call that a win.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you're 100% right, man. You're 100% right. And that's definitely one thing I try to at least show when people have questions about different concealed carry setups. And just like I said earlier, I can't carry a larger firearm on my body in the summertime. Just because you see such and such Joe Bob on Instagram doing it doesn't mean you have to either. Wear, like you said, wear what's comfortable. What will get you concealed carrying more so, and taking, picking the firearm up and then holstering it, more so than if you were to carry this other firearm. Because I can tell you, it sounds cool in concept now, but when you actually have to do it, and you're like, damn, this is such a pain in the ass, I bet you may have a little bit of change of heart, and that's definitely a big aspect of it as well, dude. Man, it's crazy.
Wranglers work just as well on the range as Cries, right?
Yeah, that's
Let's be honest.
Right.
So it's all a matter of what fits you in your daily routine and your budget and your skill set. Right?
Absolutely.
Let's just work well what's best for the end user as opposed to what we think looks cool, and I think everything will work out.
Yep, and please carry with a round in the chamber.
Oh, please, dear God, carry with a round in a chamber. You know, I know you can't necessarily practice drawing from your holster at a gun range all the time, but if you can figure that out, like through dry fire, like that's where it's at, man. But good grief. Plan on one being in the chamber all the time, no matter what. That's the first rule of gun safety anyway, is to treat every firearm like they are loaded. That doesn't mean that the magazine is loaded. That means that there's one in the pipe and the firing pin's ready to go, right?
Yep.
So if you are observing rule number one of firearm safety, I feel like you therefore have to carry with one in the chamber. That's my own personal opinion. I'll get off my soapbox.
No, I'm 100% with you, and I'm right there with you. If you're practicing good firearm safety and you are comfortable and you've been able to really have hands-on and become more, you know, familiarized with what you're doing, what you're carrying, and you should, before you start concealed carrying, regardless. You shouldn't just get a gun and then throw it in concealed carry it, like throw it in your purse or whatever. You should know what you're doing and how you're carrying your firearm, and then, you know, practicing good safety and, you know, technique, and that all comes naturally. And at that point, there should be a round in the chamber, regardless. You know,
there's no excuse not to.
Yeah, there really is no excuse. So,
but I don't want to blow my giblets off because I appendix carry. Well, then that means you don't have faith in your firearm or you don't have faith in your holster.
Exactly.
At which point, why are you carrying either one?
Man, and that like brings up a whole nother thing, and I didn't even think about it. We're about tap out of time, but it's like, man, don't run some crazy tournament competition setup trigger and stuff on your damn concealed carry gun.
Well, there's a lot of schools of thought behind that. I am a big proponent of SIG being not one of them because they've had their own issues, but like I'm a big proponent of running factory internals.
Yes.
I will, full disclosure, I do have
lightning link.
No, I have I've got
gotcha.
a Gen 3 with a giggle switch. No, I've got a Gen 3 19 that's got an Apex trigger in it, and I love the Apex triggers. It allows me to be more sloppy with my trigger press and get away with it. Mm-hmm. Because again, certain kit will bypass poor fundamentals, right? That being said, and my carry stuff, like I carry a PO7 all the time. I got a tuckable so I can tuck my shirt in for work. That's what I need to do, and nobody knows I'm carrying, so it works out perfect for me. Factory internals. I am not messing with triggers on a concealed carry that I'm going to carry every day. My Glock with the light. It's also in a purple carbon fiber holster, so like it's not. That's really more of like I'm gonna run out, you know, and I don't have to have a shirt tucked in and stuff like that. But in my everyday carry, don't mess with the factory internals, and I would encourage everybody to just chill out on that. I know a lot of people run like race triggers and stuff, and you know, ghost connectors and all that good stuff. But I just I don't know. On a holster, there's so many variables. Let's just calm down on the super lightweight. You think about pressing the trigger and it goes off type of triggers on an everyday carry item.
Yep, I would keep those to the range toys at least, because I think you're asking for more trouble with that, and you're asking for more issues and stuff like that when you have that, and the safety mechanisms sometimes are disabled. I think there was a huge thread, I can't remember where. And it was
what's the deal, right? Disconnect your airbags in your race car. Don't disconnect them in the car you used to get to work. Same kind of concept, right?
Yep, 100%. And I mean, they were testing out like all these triggers and stuff like that, and what happens if they were dropped. And almost, I would say, I think like 9 out of 10 of them. This is like aftermarket ones. Almost every one of them disengaged the safety mechanism in the Glock and was going off. And it just it had to hit that certain angle, kind of similar to what the thing with the SIG. And a lot of them failed. Like a lot of them failed that, you know, that mechanism. And so like that's why a lot of people were like, oh shit, like all these manufacturers have been saying these are 100% safe to conceal carry, and they didn't test them very thoroughly. You know, this was a couple years back, so I'm sure things have been updated, and I know some guys have changed it to where it's basically a factory setup and it's just a new trigger housing, like a new foot. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, I think you're 100% right. You know, don't mess with your internals.
Well, there's so much R&D that's done based on warranty claims that come back from the field, right? Let's not push that envelope if we can help it, right?
Yep.
You know, and again, like I just said, aftermarket accessories do not replace good fundamentals.
Yep.
Can I shoot better with an Apex? Yes. Is that because I suck at my trigger press? Probably. right? So why don't I fix the trigger press instead of buying extra triggers for all of my firearms, right? And that's the rule I go through.
Yeah, use that money towards ammo or something instead, or training, or go to
maybe some range time, right?
Yep.
Range time never hurt anybody. Go dump 50 rounds and try to keep them all where you want them to go, and that's better than not.
Yep. I was going to say there's something else, but that's all right, man. It's already dissipated inside my head, but yeah, I think we've covered a bunch of stuff and a lot of soapbox talking. But hey, I think it's a lot of important talk. I think it's really important because I think sometimes people don't want to ask that question. They don't want to ask someone who maybe is more knowledgeable or someone who does it more often, and they're embarrassed, like oh, I didn't know you're supposed to do that. I had to I had to tell my wife.
That circles back around to the Kydex, right?
Yeah.
I didn't think I wanted to pay for what this guy had, so I'm gonna make it myself. And Lord knows how many thousands of dollars later in 7 years, and I end up with basically what this guy was pushing, or very close to it. And it's one of those things where, you don't know what works until it doesn't work, and you don't know what does work until it does work. So when it comes to holsters or firearms or concealed carry or freaking, constitutional law, it doesn't matter. You need to do your research, and you have to understand the context, right? Yep. So I want people to understand Kydex a little bit better, and I hope we didn't drone on too long on our soapbox and people kind of get a gist.
No, I think so.
Also, I want people to know kind of, who I am and where I come from with this. And the fact is, there's a lot of other companies like mine with dudes just like me who are just trying to make a good product for good people. So I encourage anybody who has any questions on Kydex or anything like that, by all means, hit me up. I'm always willing to talk about stuff I like and stuff I don't like and stuff I've tried that I thought would work and doesn't. So, and then stuff I didn't think would work. Like, we didn't even talk about mod wings. Holy moly.
I know.
That's a whole other thing.
Oh, and now I know I was going to ask, and I'll say this real quick because we're kind of getting to our cap, but with the actual clips that are on the holster themselves, that's the ones that I have on my little 43 holster that you made for me, correct?
Yes, sir. So it's called a monoblock, but
Gotcha.
It's two separate clips that are brought up by the top, and I can send you some plastic clips so you can check them out yourself. But my goodness gracious, I've been a big fan.
So just as someone who has run standard single metal clips, single plastic clips, dual clips, just belt loops, man, these two little metal clips, they are awesome.
So Discreet Carry Concepts is an American-based company. They make they manufacture everything is right here in the U.S. and they are small business friendly. They have gone out of their way to help me with stuff. I ordered for this thing we got coming up.
Yeah.
I ordered a bunch of clips, and I ordered them I ordered them Saturday evening at 11 o'clock at night. And dude, I'm not kidding. They were here today, FedEx.
Ooh, man. That's
so
fast.
In addition to insane customer support, and maybe it was Friday, I might be wrong, but regardless, it was a lot faster than it needed to be. They are small business friendly. They are small business themselves. And they are what I would consider as a manufacturer, the best bang for the buck you can get.
Yeah. And legitimately, I wouldn't be, I'm serious. They are awesome. I really, really like them. And one, because you have two different points. So if you're running a single clip, if the single clip gives way for whatever reason, that's it. It's going to come off. But with these, it has two different places that have retention. So it's got, two different things. And it's
it displaces the load on your waistband too. So it in effect kind of lightens the holster a little bit.
Yeah. And just the clip itself it's sturdy. There's been times when I first got it, I was kind of messing with it and pulling it back and flicking it and seeing how much retention it had and did it stay in position? Did it warp any? And no, they're very stiff. They do exactly what they're supposed to. Very easy to take on and off. I normally just pull at the bottom, get it over the back, bottom of the belt, pull up, it's off. Again, you have to pull both because if you don't pull both, then one will 100% stay on your.
I've ripped more than one pair of pants from not paying attention, and you know what? I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's doing exactly
I love
what
the
it's supposed
complaints
to.
when people are like, "Oh, this is too hard to get off." I'm like, "Great."
Exactly.
The last thing I want is you to pull your firearm, the holster come with it. Oh my gosh.
Exactly. Or someone else to try and pull your, So it is a awesome product. I really am. When I saw them, I was like, oh, these are pretty cool. I've never seen these before. And they're
brand new, buddy.
Yeah, man, they are awesome. I really do. I'm a huge advocate. Like, I'm probably gonna get another holster, to be honest with you. I'm gonna order on top of the ones for this week. And my wife wants one. So, again, I'm a big advocate for them. And again, I appreciate you and appreciate us kind of being able to link up for a thing coming up. And of course, for you jumping on too. We've been kind of just chatting away and just kind of, I think, been more have a conversation, just bullshitting and stuff and just chatting. But I think there's a lot of good pros, tips, some background as well. And again, like you said, there's just so much stuff to talk about, really. And we could be on here for forever.
Days.
Gosh, man.
Well, and I got to tell you, man, I really appreciate the invitation. And like I said, this just came from, hey, dude, do you have this in a pattern? Because this would be really rad. Or you do have it in a pattern. Okay, well, I would buy one of these. So I think other people should too. I appreciate the confidence, and I know what we're going to do is, number one, we're going to push out a product that looks cool, and that's number one rule in a gunfight, right? You gotta look
that's cool. Right. Absolutely.
But number two, you're gonna have your brand on an awesome holster that's got a lifetime warranty, and anyone who purchases anything from you is going to be directly supporting you and then directly supporting me by, just taking care of small businesses.
Yep.
And I'm so excited to be a part of that. And I just think that's awesome.
Yep. And that's 100% what the aim was for. And that was what I wanted to do when we kind of started discussing it was, I don't want to go through this process of finding some big head honcho who can punch them out. And maybe the margins are better, but at the end of the day, I would much rather work with someone who is passionate about what they're doing and is creating a product that they really enjoy and they have their hands on. That to me is more essential, supporting other local businesses. And I think that's especially in times like right now. That is
it makes a difference when you don't have to call a 1-800 number. You
Absolutely.
know what I mean?
Absolutely. And just being able to have a conversation and just like, I'm sure people will be listening, you just reference it, hey, if you have any questions about such and such, please message me. So you're not going to get that same level of other people. They might just be saying, hey, this is what you want right here. Most expensive option. This is the best thing for for your safety and for you to conceal carry. This will make you a better shooter or put you in the best circumstances. And so that, I think, for me, seeing that makes a huge difference because at the end of the day, it's like you said, it's a relationship with the customer, with a person, even if it means at the end of the day you may end up losing a sale. Just because
you know what? I'm okay with that. If I provided some value, I provided some value. If you can make a better decision, then you can make a better decision. And that's it, dude. Because coming or going, you're going to have a positive experience. And I think that
100%.
I think if more businesses went about business that way, it would be a lot better for a lot of folks. So I'm just one dude out here in the sticks in Southeast Virginia, but I'm doing the best I damn can. So there you go.
Yeah. And I think that's what you just said 100% again, it's one of those things where, even just one reference is just, when someone comes to you and asks you questions, maybe they, it's hard to tell, you don't know what their age are, maybe they're really, really young, but that one positive experience can mean the world to somebody. And whether that means you gain a customer in the future or it means you gain an advocate for something that you believe in,
that's it, right? You got to bring 100%. People into the fold. And we all started from nothing, right?
Absolutely.
I know not all of us like to admit that, but oh my gosh, the amount of stuff I've learned and the amount of cool people I've met and stuff over the past 7-8 years, just being involved with this, much less being in the shooting community, has been
for sure
absolutely fantastic.
Yep. And that's how this community grows. That's how we retain rights and stuff like that, is if you make the community a better place as a whole, whether like we just referenced. And I can tell you, as someone who does shoot pretty often, I can tell you I got humbled pretty bad when I went and shot with, I keep on referencing his name, Granola Gunslinger, but he's a high-speed dude. He knows what he's doing. But I can tell you right now, going and doing a training session with him, oof, man, you get kind of humbled pretty fast, even if it's just kind of like smaller stuff, and you kind of start learning a lot of technique. And again, that thing that comes back to, one, practice what you're doing, practice what you're using, and take, instructor courses. Oh man, that's a whole other story again. So maybe we just need to stop right there. Stop before I get too far up another.
You don't know what you don't know, right?
Gosh, man. But again, Stuart, thank you so much for coming on, just discussing your business, what you're doing, the materials, all the parts, and moving. And we really didn't even get into a lot of just like the depth of some of it. But I feel like
we failed. Really, we failed at this. This was a terrible waste of time. I'm so sorry.
No. It just means we have to do a part 2. That's all it means. We just have to do another episode. That's all it means. We got to do a part 2 episode and come on and dig on, and maybe we'll have someone else come in and bullshit with us. But yes,
that sounds awesome, man.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for jumping on. Again, it's been a blast, and I learned some things too. I feel like I always enjoy learning something, and that's something else. You don't always know everything. You always learn something new whenever you discuss with something.
Ever a student, man. That's the best way to be.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on, sir. Again, holsters will be dropping the 26th of February. That is this Friday. If you're listening, we'll have this out hopefully tomorrow, which will be Wednesday. Tuesday, excuse me. Got my days backwards. But maybe Wednesday, we'll see. And we'll keep on advertising, keep posting them up, and prices should be already listed as they are, and we'll have them all set up. And the abomination, of course, nothing like having someone pull their firearm and you see nothing but unicorns with little Ugg boots or a rooster. That makes the life-changing decision.
It's absolutely top tier, actually. It's a not well-known secret, unfortunately.
That's that harmonic.
Well, thanks again for having me, man.
Yes,
I really appreciate this, and I'm really excited about this opportunity. I think it would be great. And again, anybody that has any questions or any concerns or anything, hit me up via email or DMs, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. And what's your Instagram by chance? Go ahead and throw it out there.
It's really complicated. It's Pagan Ridge Kydex.
Easy enough.
Pagan, and that is because I'm located over here in Southeast Virginia off the Pagan River. I am not actually a witch, unfortunately. So Pagan Ridge Kydex, and company name is Pagan Ridge Kydex Solutions LLC. And you can find me. I'm on Instagram all the time, and you can find me over there. I also have a website. It's Pagan Ridge Kydex. So just type that in and you'll get sent straight to it, and you can go peruse my site and check out all the fun stuff we have to offer.
Yep. As well as I'll plug your email in here because I'm looking at it. I want to make sure I had it correct before I said it. Info.
There you go. Yeah.
Yep. Info
at paganridgekydex.com.
There you go. Perfect. Thank you again, sir. And this is episode, I think it was 27. Man, we're just chugging along.
Congrats, man.
Yeah,
well, thanks again for having me, dude. I really appreciate this.
Yes, sir.
This was awesome.
Have a nice evening, sir.
All right, man. You too.
All right.